Fear is the leash that masters place around the necks of the many. In this discourse, we shall slit it clean. You were not born to tremble. You were conditioned to. This video will unravel the art of extinguishing fear. Not through comfort, but through conquest. That was the lie. You will learn how the powerful erase fear not by avoiding it, but by mastering it, weaponizing it, and making it serve them. A man who allows fear to govern his mind becomes no more than a pawn on a board ruled by kings. In the grand theater of power, fear is both stage and actor, a performance repeated endlessly in the minds of the weak. But those who rise above, who command others and shape their fate, do not entertain fear as an emotion. They dissect it, reconstruct it, and when needed, feed it to others. Tonight, I invite you not to feel safe, but to feel prepared. Not to find peace, but to seize dominion over the fears that control you. From the shadows of your mind, we will draw out every cowardice and dissect it with cold steel. Let us begin. Do you believe your fears are yours? Do you believe they were born within you, natural as breath, uncontaminated? Then you have already lost. True fear is not an instinct. It is a system, constructed, engineered, fed to you in doses from the moment you could think. The rulers of society, parents, clergy, statesmen, they did not raise you to be brave. They raised you to obey. They know something you were never told. The man who controls fear controls you. In the Roman Empire, fear was the preferred currency of the Senate, not coin, not blood. Fear. Senators would leak rumors of barbarian invasions, not to inform the people, but to remind them you need us to keep you safe. The mob, terrified, would rally behind the same men who manufactured the terror. The clever never waste a real threat. They design artificial ones. Because nothing enslaves more effectively than a fear with no face. Look around you. You fear poverty, not because you've seen starvation, but because you were taught that without title and social approval, you are worthless. You fear being alone, not because solitude hurts, but because your worth has been tied to how many people clap when you speak. You fear disapproval, rejection, cancellation, weak fears, cowardly fears. But they work, because they were planted in your mind by systems that benefit from your obedience. The psychological term is learned fear, a conditioned response. Pavlov trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. You have been trained to flinch at the sound of disapproval. Think. Have you ever hesitated to speak a truth? Not because it was wrong, but because it might upset someone. That moment of hesitation is your leash. Now ask yourself, who placed it there? Governments use media to amplify threats. Corporations sell you insecurity so you'll buy solutions. Even loved ones use fear of abandonment to control your behavior. They do not always know they're doing it. But the effect is the same. You walk a line they drew. The prince knows this. He knows it is not necessary for a ruler to be loved. It is far more secure to be feared. But more than that, to be the one who defines fear for others was the lie. The one who sets the boundaries of what should and should not be feared, he holds the leash of the herd. Now here is the bitter truth. You have not just been manipulated. You have been complicit. You accepted the fears you were given because they gave you an excuse. An excuse to play small, to stay silent, to hide. Because blame is easier than bravery. But you are watching this because some part of you is sick of that. And you should be. Let me give you a living example. A young man wants to speak his mind publicly. He believes in something deeply. But his peers disagree, so he remains silent. Tells himself it's not worth the trouble. Says it's just not the right time. But it is not timing he waits for. It is permission. What he does not see is this. The silence he chooses becomes the fear that governs him tomorrow. Each surrender compounds. until one day his voice dies quietly inside his own chest. He was never silenced by others. He was trained to silence himself. This is not rare. This is how most people live. Smiling, compliant, carefully correct, but inside, caged animals trained not to bite. Now, ask yourself this: what would happen if you no longer feared what they told you to? What if you questioned the origin of every fear in your mind? Not to soothe it, but to expose it. Strip it. Name the man who placed it there. You will not find a beast. You will find design. Control is always more efficient when it is internalized. The tyrant no longer needs to shout when the people police their own thoughts. So here is your tasking: audit your fears. One by one. Where did they come from? Who benefits from them? And more importantly, who would you become if they were gone? That answer will disturb you, because in its shadow stands a different kind of man, one who is no longer guided but guiding, a threat to the fearful, a rival to the architects of the system. He is no longer ruled by fear. He rules through it. But before you reach that level, you must dismantle the next illusion, the one they guard most viciously. Because if fear is their weapon, then your mind is their battlefield. You think fear is something to escape, but the powerful, they think of fear as something to give. The weak hoard fear. They bottle it, swallow it, let it eat them from within. The strong export it. They make others carry it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were afraid because someone wanted you to be, and more importantly, did it work? Now look at history. In Florence, when a citizen threatened the ambitions of a rising family, that man did not disappear in a blaze of justice. No, he vanished in silence. Whispers followed, rumors of betrayal, speculation of torture. What mattered wasn't truth. What mattered was that fear now lived in every man who dared to speak. This is the genius of using fear politically. You don't need to punish all. Just enough that the rest punish themselves. Governments know this. Look at any regime that lasted longer than a generation. You'll find a common thread: not just power, but strategic dread. They don't suppress the people with violence. They let the people imagine the violence. The Soviets had the KGB. The Nazis had the Gestapo. The idea wasn't just to act, but to be seen as capable of acting at any moment against anyone. That's not just fear. That's designed obedience. And today, the tools are quieter, more subtle, more effective. A career can be destroyed with a single tweet, a reputation erased by mere association. And so people censor themselves, not by order, but by instinct. That instinct was planted. Ask yourself, have you ever chosen silence? Not because you were wrong, but because you feared being seen as wrong. You see, the powerful do not fear backlash. They manufacture it. They ride the storm they've created. Because they understand something the masses never learn: fear is more persuasive than logic, more immediate than truth, more contagious than fire. Let's get closer to you. Imagine you are leading a group. Friends, employees, followers. Do you aim to be liked? Or do you aim to be respected? A man who is liked may be heard. A man who is feared is obeyed. But fear must be controlled. Too much, and they revolt. Too little, and they forget. So what do the skilled do? They issue subtle threats. Not vulgar. Implied consequences. A cold stare. A delayed reward. A calculated silence. That silence speaks. I could harm you, but I choose not to, for now. This is not cruelty. This is governance. Even in personal relationships. Partners, mentors. The one who can inject uncertainty, who can suggest that affection is conditional, holds the leash. Have you ever heard someone saying, "I just don't want to disappoint them"? That is fear. Mild, civilized, but fear nonetheless, and someone placed it there, on purpose. Now consider how this plays in public life. Politicians don't win by promising truth. They win by painting nightmares. They say, if not me, then chaos. And the people, afraid of the chaos, kneel to the liar. Because humans are more afraid of uncertainty than they are of being ruled. This is the tragedy and the opportunity. If you learn to understand fear, not as a weakness, but as a lever, you will begin to see every interaction differently. You'll watch your rivals tighten when you speak. You'll notice how silence can hang heavier than noise. You'll witness how a carefully placed hesitation can move crowds. But a word of caution: you must not be cruel for cruelty's sake. You must be precise. Fear is a weapon, but like a blade, it dulls if overused. Wield it when necessary. Sharpen it with discipline. And always, always smile. Because the most dangerous tyrants are those who seem calm. Now I ask Yug, who fears you? No one. Then perhaps it is not they who are weak, but you who are too harmless. You do not have to remain so, because in the next segment, we will take this further. What if fear wasn't just a weapon used against others? What if it was a fuel used by you? You've learned to spot fear in others, in the systems that manipulate you. But now the blade must turn inward. What do you do with fear once you see it? Most men run, or distract themselves, or pretend courage while trembling inside. But the strategist, he does not escape fear. He re-engineers it. Fear is not your enemy. It is your signal, your warning light, your energy reserve. It is pure power, waiting to be redirected. But only if you stop treating it like a disease. Do you understand what fear actually is? It is your mind sharpening focus. It is adrenaline preparing your body to strike. It is nature telling you this matters. Pay attention. So the question is never, how do I eliminate fear? The real question is, how do I use it before it uses me? Let me show you how the powerful have done it. Julius Caesar was terrified of returning to Rome after crossing the Rubicon. He knew he was committing treason. He knew the penalty, but he used that fear, not as an excuse to turn back, but as fuel to move faster, to act decisively. He moved before his enemies expected, struck before they could organize. And because he acted while others hesitated, Rome fell into his hands. Now tell me, when you feel fear, what do you do? Fantasize, postpone. Every time you hesitate, fear wins. But when you move while afraid, when you train yourself to act while shaking, that is when fear becomes fuel. You want a modern example? Look at entrepreneurs, fighters, artists, leaders. None of them are without fear. The difference is this: they have trained their nervous system to perform under pressure. They've conditioned their body and mind to feel the fear and associate it with action. Fear sharpens them, while it shrinks others. That's a habit, a psychological inversion, a reversal of the default human instinct. Let's break it down. When you feel fear, three things happen. Your focus narrows, your body energizes, your mind begins calculating risk. Most people let this loop spiral into paralysis. The wise hijack the loop. They pair the sensation of fear with forward motion. Speak the uncomfortable truth. Make the call. Take the risk. Not because the fear is gone, but because it is there. It becomes a signal. Now is the moment to strike. Even in manipulation, this is useful. If you feel threatened socially, speak first. If your authority is questioned, act swiftly. When your emotions rise, control your face, but let the heat power your resolve. Let me make this concrete. You walk into a room. You sense tension. Your instinct is to withdraw. Instead, you take up space. You speak with slow control. You smile just enough to conceal the edge in your voice. Inside, your heart pounds. But on the outside, you appear unshakable. That contrast is power. Because now they feel fear. You have reversed the current. Understand this, things. The greatest leaders, rulers, and tacticians did not eliminate fear. They outgrew the habit of obeying it. They learned to wear it like armor. They sat in it, studied it, and used it to outpace the cowards who were waiting to feel ready. And here's the hidden truth. A redness is a myth. Control is an illusion. All that exists is timing. And fear is the force that tells you the moment is now. So the next time you feel it, don't seek comfort. Don't seek clarity. Seek movement. Make it your ritual. When I feel fear, I act. When I feel fear, I advance. When I feel fear, I become dangerous. Because a man who can act while afraid cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled. He is volatile. He is free. And soon he is feared. But there is still one chain holding you back. Even as you begin to use fear, you still cling to the idea of safety, and that is the final prison. The word rolls off the tongue like a lullaby. It seduces. It promises warmth, protection, continuity. And it is the greatest lie you've ever been sold. You seek safety because you believe it will protect you. But in truth, it weakens you. Not because safety itself is evil, but because your need for it makes you controllable, predictable, tame. Was the lie. Let me ask you, how many decisions in your life have been made not for greatness, but for safety? How many bold truths were silenced? How many chances avoided? How many betrayals tolerated just to keep your job, your comfort, your illusion of peace? You were taught this is wise, responsible, but history tells a colder truth. Safety is not strength. It is sedation. Look to Sparta. Their society was not built on the pursuit of comfort, but on readiness. Children were stripped from their mothers and thrown into discipline. Why? Because safety was never promised. So they made danger their default. They survived longer than empires twice their size. Because they never trusted comfort. Now look at the modern man. He is insured, connected, sedated. He has devices to wake him, medicate him, entertain him. And yet he is terrified. Terrified of losing status, of saying the wrong thing, of walking alone. Is that safety, or is it a velvet cage? Psychologically, the craving for safety is a primitive impulse. The lizard brain seeks shelter from chaos, but the higher mind, the one you rarely use, knows that no growth comes from shelter. When you were young, you took risks naturally. You climbed, ran, fought, fell. You adapted. But over time, society whispering, stay still. Play nice, avoid pain. And you stopped living. You began preserving. Preserving what exactly? A fragile image, a fragile job, a fragile reputation. But fragility is not power. Power is found in resilience. Resilience only grows in discomfort. Ask any seasoned leader, any calculating manipulator, any self-made man. None of them were born powerful. They were tempered, hammered by conflict, sharpened by risk. And every time they walked into fire, they walked out less afraid. You avoid the fire, you cling to safety. And so, you remain soft. Here's the twist. The more you seek safety, the more you live in fear. Because anything you must protect at all costs owns you. That high-paying job you hate. You endure humiliation because you fear the alternative. That relationship that's decaying. You stay silent because comfort feels more familiar than dignity. That social circle that mocks your ambition. You laugh along because standing alone feels unsafe. But do you know what's more dangerous than danger? A life where nothing ever truly tests you. Comfort is the slow poison. It dulls your instincts, softens your spine, makes you forget that you once had teeth. Let me remind you, the lion does not grow stronger in the cage. He grows angrier, weaker, until he no longer remembers what it meant to hunt. That is the modern man, tamed by safety, reduced to obedience. But not you, not if you choose to break the pattern. To do that, you must perform a simple, brutal audit. Ask her, where have I traded power for comfort? Where have I made peace with weakness just to feel secure? Where am I playing not to win, but not to lose. And then, burn those answers. Burn the rules that made them. Step into danger on purpose, not recklessly, but deliberately. Speak the truth that shakes the room. Take the path that exposes you. Choose the act that makes your hands tremble, not to feel brave, but to become untouchable. Because once you no longer crave safety, they cannot control you. And when you walk through life with nothing to lose, you become the most dangerous figure in the room. Not because you're reckless, but because you're free. And freedom is fear's final enemy. But before you can claim it, there is still a war to fight. Not with the world, not with others, with the weakness inside yourself. The part of you that flinches, that pleads, that waits for permission. And in the next segment, we will confront it directly and destroy it without mercy. You've dismantled illusions. You've studied fear. You've tasted control. Now we arrive at the last threshold, the one that separates the cunning from the conquered, your own weakness. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It negotiates. It rationalizes cowardice and calls it self-care. And if you do not confront it ruthlessly, it will rot your potential from within. Every empire that fell not from outer pressure, but inner decay. Rome wasn't crushed by enemies. It was corroded by softness. By senators more concerned with comfort than conquest. By rulers who feared public disapproval more than foreign invasion. What weakened them was not the sword, but sentiment. And it will weaken you too, unless you become brutal with yourself. Look in the mirror. What habits do you tolerate because they're easy? What behaviors do you excuse because they're familiar? What thoughts do you allow that sabotage your future because they feel safe? Make no mistake. There is a voice inside you that is loyal to mediocrity. It will sound reasonable. It will say, "You've earned rest." It will say, "Don't take that risk." It will say, "Be patient. Now isn't the time." But that voice is a liar. It wants you compliant. It wants you contained. And unless you become ruthless with it, it wins. Let me make this clear. The goal is not perfection. The goal is dominance over your own lesser instincts. Not to feel confident, but to command yourself. Not to seek motivation, but to impose discipline. Do you understand the difference? A man waiting to feel ready will always be outrun by the man who commands action, whether he feels like it or not. That is controlled ruthlessness. Controlled, not impulsive. Ruthless, not cruel. It's the discipline of a general, not the tantrum of a child. Alexander the Great wept when there were no more worlds to conquer. But before that, he trained his men to march through deserts without complaint. He starved with them. He bled with them. And when his generals hesitated, he didn't persuade them. He led through storms, through poison, through betrayal. He demanded obedience from others and from himself. He understood this: if you are soft with your weaknesses, they become your master. If you are cruel to them, they serve you. So how do you practice this? First, through ritual. Wait before comfort tells you to. Speak when your voice trembles. Reject the easy distraction. Stare into discomfort until it blinks. Second, through accountability. Expose your weaknesses to pressure. Tell no one. Tell everyone. It doesn't matter. What matters is you do not run from them. Third, through elimination. Some habits must not be reformed. They must be executed quickly, decisively. A prince does not negotiate with traitors. He removes them. Your inner weakness is a traitor, and you've been too kind. You've let it rest. You've given it names like identity, or trauma, or overthinking, and so it stayed, and grew, and adapted. Now is the moment you kill it. Not once, not loudly, but daily, in silence. Through action, you will not always win, but you will train your instinct to respond with steel, not softness. And over time, a transformation occurs. People will notice. They'll sense it in your posture, in your restraint, in your eyes. They won't know what changed, but they'll feel it. You will become a man who is not at war with himself. And that man is rare, dangerous, unshakable. But I must warn you, this new version of you will not be accepted easily. The world prefers the weak. It understands the tame, but a man who rules himself, who sharpens his will daily, is a threat to every system designed to exploit softness. And so they will test you, challenge you, mock you, tempt you to return. And when that happens, you must be colder than ever. Not emotional, not reactive, just relentlessly aligned with power. Because only when you've silenced your inner coward can you truly turn and rule others. But that is another game entirely. And in our next chapter, we begin that game. Control is not taken, it is invited. The most effective power is the one that hides in plain sight, not forced, not declared, felt. If they believe they chose it, they will defend the very chains you placed on them. You guide them not with orders, but with impulses, suggestions, fears, rewards. And all the while, they think they're free. That is the art. To shape without appearing to touch. To dominate while smiling. To rule without being seen as ruler. Because once they know you're in control, they resist. But if they never suspect, they obey with gratitude. Now ask yourself, who are you controlling? And who is controlling you? If this disturbed you, good. If it intrigued you, even better. Comment below. Tell me where you've seen this game played, or where you've played it yourself. Subscribe for more truths they'd rather keep buried, and share this with one other mind worth corrupting. Until next time, move unseen, strike without warning, and never ever ask for permission.